we got?
We got units headed out there now. EMS and fire.
Whereabouts?
I think up by Walker's farm.
John Krasinski's series of alien horror films are some of the most gripping and thrilling the genre has offered up in the last few years. Both A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2 put us in a situation that feels intensely isolated, making the tension constant and volatile. This atmosphere is achieved by the film's clever use of sound. For more on this, check out my video on how A Quiet Place tells a story through sound, but it's also because of the nature of the creatures that have invaded Earth. Both movies follow the Abbott family, who are living as quiet a life as possible to avoid detection from the invaders who have literally obliterated humanity. Known as Death Angels, these horrifying aliens help carry the atmosphere of the films because of their hypersensitive hearing and effective hunting prowess. However, it's their subtle near-omnipresence that makes them extremely fascinating creatures to explore, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. Let's begin our deep dive into the origins, physiology, weaknesses, and everything that is known about the Death Angels. While the films don't explicitly tell us about their origins, we do get many hints scattered throughout. In the first movie, we see newspaper snippets Lee has collected, with headlines about a meteorite landing in New Mexico, indicating that this is how the Death Angels arrived on our planet. This is confirmed in the start of A Quiet Place 2, which begins with the invasion of the Abbott's hometown. During interviews, Krasinski has also explained that they're based on his idea of a perfect evolutionary species that lived on a planet with no light. The harsh environment of their home world is what caused them to develop their hyper-keen sense of sound and indestructible exoskeletons. So, when they arrived on our planet, overpopulated as it is and full of sounds, Krasinski described the invasion as wolves being set loose in a nursery, a disturbing thought that adeptly describes the utter defeat the military suffered at the hands of the invasive species. What we can gather from Krasinski's explanations is that the Death Angels are indeed extraterrestrial. Their entire physiology and behavior are the cause of generations of evolution on a dark planet where they were likely the apex predators. Given their basic intelligence, it's unlikely that they mastered interstellar travel. But one possible theory is that this planet was destroyed and dormant Death Angels were able to hitch a ride on a piece of this ruined planet and travel light years across the galaxy before landing on Earth and taking humanity by surprise. The Death Angels are quadrupeds that appear to move similarly to gorillas, and their entire body is covered in thin layered armor. Despite its lack of bulk, this armor is incredibly durable and, as far as we know, indestructible. This hardened exoskeleton can protect the Death Angels from military-grade bullets, as well as explosions and missiles. Knowing this, it's easy to see how the US military was quickly defeated, as is implied by the various newspaper snippets. Their front limbs are like arms that can extend far, yet are limber enough to allow them to move at near blinding speeds. In addition, all four of their limbs have prehensile digits that are equipped with razor-sharp claws. These deadly natural blades, coupled with their ferocious strength, allow the Death Angels to tear through their victims, as well as cut through hard materials, including metal. We can see these delightful appendages in their full glory as they rip and tear through the Abbott family's hideout in the first movie. However, the most terrifying aspect of the Death Angels' physiology has got to be their head. For starters, the movie makes it quite clear that the creatures are completely blind and rely exclusively on their hypersensitivity to sound. The entirety of their head region is also covered in the same exoskeleton as the rest of their body. However, they can open up their heads both in the front and back to further pinpoint their prey's location. The armor in the front region can be split into fragments and serve as directional antennas for refined hearing. This is seen extensively during the film's final scenes, when Evelyn and Reagan find themselves face to face with a Death Angel. As they try to remain as quiet as possible with a shotgun trained to its face, the creature uses its head armor fragments to attempt to sense their position. The back part of their head can also be opened further to increase their hearing significantly. Underneath that part of its head, the Death Angel hides a large ear-like organ. Once revealed, this organ dramatically increases their hearing capabilities, allowing them to pinpoint their prey from long distances. It's for this particular reason why Lee and his family have done everything they can to live as quiet a life as possible. From moving barefoot wherever they go, placing sand to dampen their sound, to soundproofing their newborn's basement room, these were all measures to reduce the chances of the deadly aliens hearing them across long distances. As for their overall nature, the Death Angels are likely one of the deadliest and most efficient creatures in horror history, portrayed as simple hunters who bolt towards the faintest sound that they pick up. It's also interesting to note that in the final showdown scene of the first film, the aliens react violently to the sounds of the equipment near it, regardless of whether it sounded natural or not. This can lead us to believe that the Death Angels have no real rhyme or reason for their assaults, as they indiscriminately sick their claws at anything that produces the slightest sound. And we don't ever actually see them eat or consume the people that they kill, so it's hard to say if their hunts are driven by hunger. In all likelihood, the Death Angels are simply killers that eradicate anything that generates sound, until their surroundings are as desolate as the planet they came from. While the Death Angels may seem like an unstoppable locust-like force, both A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2 have shown that they can be killed. By carefully observing their physiology, it's clear that their exoskeleton protects a flesh-like body. Like any other living organism, these creatures have insides that can be damaged and destroyed. That is, if you can get past their impenetrable armor. The best time to strike against a Death Angel is when its large ear is exposed from the armor on the back of its head. Using this method, both Evelyn and Reagan were able to kill one of the creatures with one single shotgun blast. It's also likely that attacking the exposed front part of their heads can yield the same results, but it's probably too risky. I mean, the creatures have pretty swift reactions, so they might engage their armor fragments before the shot makes it through. In both cases, you'll want to incapacitate your Death Angel foe with a high-pitched sound. Reagan figures out that her hearing aid can facilitate this, and uses it to make the creatures feel great pain. This can be incredibly potent when their big ear is out in the open, as it will receive an amplified force of ear-splitting sound waves. Their vulnerability to this proves to be the most crucial aspect in the fight against the Death Angels, which Reagan ultimately shares with the rest of the world through a radio tower towards the end of the second movie. A Quiet Place 2 also revealed another weakness that they have, their inability to swim. When Emmett and Reagan make their way to the island, one of the creatures pursuing them ends up in the water and never comes back up. Two factors might contribute to this. For one, their exoskeleton is probably incredibly heavy, and secondly, their physiology doesn't look particularly built for underwater movement. In the first film, a Death Angel was happy to make its way into the shallow waters of the Abbott's flooded basement, but I think it's safe to assume that the creatures either drown or remain submerged if the water is deep enough. At the same time, I think it's likely that these creatures don't even need to breathe air. Let's not forget all the time that they spent in the vacuum of space before arriving on our planet. Regardless, it's clear that the Death Angels aren't fans of deep and large bodies of water, which has led to some communities establishing themselves on islands for protection. The Death Angels from the Quiet Place duology are incredibly fascinating creatures. Their design and lore make them a perfect vessel to create unending tension that grips you from beginning to end. Though it's likely we won't learn much about the origins of the creatures in their home world, it would be interesting to learn a bit more about their nature as hunters. In addition, learning more about the war effort against the aliens and how New York and other cities were ultimately defeated will give us a bit more insight into the extent of their capabilities. But enough from me and on to you. What do you guys think about the Death Angels? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay up to date on all my content. And if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.